Well, the last holiday weekend of the summer season is done. So we wave goodbye, and now we just wait for fall to arrive, which is in another couple of weeks. Meanwhile, we've got 90-degree weather and more for the rest of this week, and the tropics are heating up. After heating up and cooling down, now they're heating up again, and we'll be taking a look at that and the long range. And that's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. You got mulch, topsoil, sand, everything you need, and of course, the hardware you might need in case we do get a tropical storm or hurricane moving up the East Coast. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. I guarantee you cannot possibly find better prices anywhere. And the website is...
Well, it has been and always will be OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by WeatherFlow, Joe. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link will be pinned to the top of the chat board in a moment. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And, of course, if you make any purchase on the Tempest website, be it the Tempest Weather Station or any of the other wonderful gadgets and gizmos that they have, use the coupon code I want a weather station. And deep down inside, you know that you do. And if you do that, Joe, what do they get?
They're going to get a big, and I do mean big, 10% off anything that you purchase at Tempest. So what are you waiting for? If you don't have that weather station from Tempest, get out and get it and get that 10% off too.
Very good. All right, let me get that off the screen now and come to us. And I hope your Labor Day holiday weekend was a good one. We had actually some really exceptional weather here. Upper 50s at night, low 80s by day, of course, in the mountains. But when you drive away elsewhere into, how shall we say, the lower elevations, the temperatures are about 5 to 6 degrees warmer. But it was really a very nice, it's been a nice stretch of weather here for the last 4 days, and we've got more coming. And I noticed, by the way, Joe, Izzy D was the first one tonight to hit the tip jar. And he pointed out in some statistics that he said I should quote, which I will do as soon as I can find them again. But, here it is. Okay, so New York City, I guess as measured by Central Park, had 0 days in the month of August that it hit 90 degrees. And the last time that happened was in 1986. Only 8 90-degree days for Central Park up until this point. That is way less than the last 5 years. And today, apparently, they only managed to make it to 89. But everybody else got to 90, and that includes a lot of the Long Island South Shore observations because of the northwest wind. And, in fact, I have 2 maps that I put together at the last minute so that we could see some of these high temperature maps. And of course, by the way, the website that I use for this, which is the Weather Service Hazard website, they're getting rid of this. Naturally, they're getting rid of it. I like it. I use it. They get rid of it. But here you go. So looks like Newark got to 93. And it was, I see it was basically upper 80s to near 90 by you, upper 80s to a few 90s in southern New England, a lot of 90-degree highs across Long Island. And the real hot spot, though.
Did JFK get to 90 today?
88.
88, okay.
88.
They got to 90 yesterday, believe it or not.
They did yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. The other one I have... Oh, so now where it was really hot today. So Philadelphia got to 97. Trenton got to 93. Atlantic City, 93. In Washington, D.C., Baltimore, looks like Washington got to 95, but there was actually a couple of 100-degree readings up in north and northwest of Washington, up in Frederick, for example, which they got to 100. And in north and west of Columbia, in Maryland, got to 96. and I'm seeing also a couple of hundreds in the interior, well north and west of Fredericksburg. So the super hot temperatures of middle to upper 90s, Maryland down into Virginia and points south.
Yeah, and it would have gotten hotter up here today, except that we had some. Excuse me. We actually had a few showers move on through late last night.
Yes.
Into early this morning. I better get some water, Joe. Take
Okay.
it back.
But Joe's right. We did get some showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder here and there. I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, I saw that there was an upper trough that was coming through, but it just didn't look like it was going to do very much. And yeah, there were some showers scattered around, but it was very interesting on the satellite view as well, because when you looked at it on the satellite, you could see the showers, and then it was clear all around it. So it wasn't like
the other thing is we did have some overnight showers, but during the first half of the day, the skies were, I mean, looking toward the south from where I was, from my perspective, we had quite a bit of cloud cover. Looked like it was rather gray and dark. Overhead and to the north, it was brighter. And we had to wait until the afternoon to see the sun break out through that and get back into a bright and sunny pattern. That's when the temperatures went flying upward again. Up until about 12 noon or 1 o'clock today, my local temperature was only about 81 or 82. And then after that, up it went. And I think we fell just shy of 90. I think we got to 88 or 89 during the afternoon. So I think if it wasn't for that bit of cloud cover this morning, we probably would have hit 90. Now tomorrow will be a whole different story. Tomorrow I think we'll be right up there in the 90s in the midday and afternoon.
it does look like it's going to last at least through Thursday and possibly into Friday.
Yeah, I think finally, I think Central Park, as you just pointed out, Central Park was 89 today. And it was kind of funny, because over the weekend I heard a number of different forecasts or weather forecasters say the heat wave, the first heat wave of the season, is going to begin on Monday, and they were all so confident that 90 would be hit. We didn't hit it at all in August, but we hit it. And
I'm sorry, Joe, but there was a point. There was a point where 88 was considered the number, that it had to be above 88 that they would use it as a heat wave. Did they change that? I mean, I
have not heard that. I have not heard that. To me, it's always been 90.
Yeah, well, you and I are, far more logical people than others. A couple of what?
Old farts.
Oh, well, no, that goes without saying. Meanwhile, Idalia is still post-tropical, but I'm looking at the satellite on the upper right. There seems to be, to me, there looks like there's, a fairly well-defined area of rain and maybe even some thunderstorms. I don't know if there's any convection around the center. Actually, it looks like there isn't much convection around the center, but there's a lot of clouds on the west side and over Nova Scotia at the moment, sort of backing in northwestward. So it's still there, still lurking about.
And we have that, and we have Gert still hanging on, so to speak, and we've got something that looks like the Hurricane Center. I would have thought that they would have pulled the trigger and stuck a name on this thing today, but I guess they're going to wait a little while longer. But there is something to the west of Africa that is being given a 90% chance of development, and that will become, if not later tonight or first thing in the morning tomorrow, it will become Lee, the L storm on our hurricane or tropical cyclone name list. And that one, I don't know if you want to get into it now or wait until a little bit later.
Well, we're going to get into it a bit later.
Yeah.
Let's run through what's going on now. And I'm looking, I've got the satellite loop with the lightning strikes, and there's actually quite a few thunderstorms from Missouri down into Louisiana, but that's about the only place east of the Rockies where we're really seeing much of anything. There's some thunderstorms moving up into North Dakota, from western South Dakota into western North Dakota and eastern Montana. Looks like a little bit of a disturbance there. Much of the Southwest is quiet. The Great Lakes are nice. The Northeast, the whole eastern seaboard, except for this little stick of clouds that's come down for parts of upstate New York and over parts of New Jersey, and I think there's even a couple of radar echoes that are showing up there. And let me get this a quick refresh. And I was actually surprised about the showers last night and this morning. It caught me a little bit off guard.
Caught me off guard too.
Yeah,
I looked at it, I said, what the heck is this? Everything was wet.
Yeah, it was strange. It was strange because when I looked at it on this, when you looked at it on the satellite, I mentioned this while you were getting your drink of water. When I looked at it on the satellite, there was, you could see the clouds where the showers were, but it wasn't. That was it. Outside of where those showers were, you could have walked a handful of miles and skies were clear. So
Right.
it was, this really super small scale feature, and you can see there's some blips on the radar in southern New Jersey right now. It doesn't look like much, maybe just a couple of sprinkles or a brief downpour or two, if that, and then that's gone. And meanwhile, here's the stuff that's pretty much right along the Mississippi River from St. Louis, actually from just north of St. Louis. No, St. Louis, snaking just west of the Mississippi, all the way down into Arkansas, all the way down into northeast Louisiana and western Mississippi. There's some heavier storms in the mix there, but there's nothing severe. There's no boxes that are going up. And up in the northern plains, here's where we do have a few severe thunderstorm warnings up in parts of northern South Dakota, Joe, and southern North Dakota. How's that? And also in southwestern South Dakota and northwestern Nebraska, and also some other showers in covering much of central and north central Wyoming and into southeastern Montana, scattered around into western Montana and northern Idaho. But otherwise, if you look at this radar, it's really, really quiet. And severe weather, I don't think, is a big issue this week overall. The Storm Prediction Center, which, they certainly were not able to glean the guidance from the Joe and Joe Weather Show, to which they watch almost continuously there. But we do have a marginal to slight risk tonight in that area in the Dakotas and into Montana. We've got actually, looks like 3 severe thunderstorm watches that are in play there at the moment, and a marginal risk in that area that's up and down the Mississippi River. No thunderstorms in the east. We do have heat advisories that have started to go up in parts of upstate New York, and my God, they actually have them up in Vermont. Who would have thought? And in southern New Hampshire, considering most of the people up in northern New England have labeled this the non-summer because of all the rain they've gotten.
Right. A lot of people, saying the heat that we've been hearing about so often this summer has to be one of the worst that has ever encompassed the United States. And I have a little.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I have a problem too. And the encompassment, is there such a term as that? Anyway,
Joe, if there's not, there is now, because you know that you and I are just incredible trendsetters.
We'll see that in.
I mean, that word you just mentioned, I'm sure will be trending on X at any moment.
Anyway, the extreme heat has been basically locked in over the Plain States and the Southwest, but meantime, here in the Northeast, we have had hardly anything. I mean, it's been a very humid summer. Certainly, in many cases, some very rainy conditions. Vermont, for example, case in point. But it hasn't been at all hot. As we said, New York City, Central Park, still waiting to get its first heat wave of the season. They may get it by the end of the week, but certainly it has not been hot in this area. So it hasn't really encompassed our neck of the woods, our part of the country. Maybe next year, but not this year. In terms of extreme heat, I think we had a heat wave back in the early 2000s. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research. I want to just check here for a moment. Looking here at the chronology. Yeah. The Great North American Heat Wave, July and August of 2006. Now that was one where 225 people were killed due to the heat. It brought extreme heat to most every location in southern Canada and across much of the United States, the contiguous United States. Now, case in point, temperatures approached 100 degrees in Rochester, New York on August 1st with a heat index there of 110. LaGuardia Airport, in that heat wave scenario in 2006, from August 4th through August 6th, 3 consecutive days at or above 100 degrees. I'm not talking about heat index. I'm talking about actual ambient air temperature. And we didn't see anything near that this particular year. Again, of course, the Southwest saw it, but we here in the Northeast didn't. So you're talking about extreme heat waves for the United States as a whole. This year didn't quite reach the list, in my opinion, but it certainly did back in 2006. That's 17 years ago.
You know, Nora O'Donnell, who I know for a fact, Joe, also watches this show, is not going to take too kindly to the fact that you're basically criticizing how these newscasts are structured. You're not playing with the theme here, Joe. 500 million people across the United States, or whatever number they've come up with, are burning up even as we speak. I mean, you got to go along with this.
160 million actually that they promoted, and this time
I want them to call those people out by name one at a time.
Yeah. Well, it'll be our turn. We waited until now to see Midsummer Heat, and we will probably be seeing that on tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. And the question about Friday and Saturday, I guess, is going to be: will the heat be tempered by an approaching cold front, which may provide cooling in the form of showers and scattered thunderstorms?
Yeah, Frank Scalera says, I don't think New York City will have a heat wave. We might see 90 tomorrow and Wednesday, but I really doubt we're going to have a heat wave. Well, look, there are going to be some points that are probably not going to hit 90 for the so-called 3 days in a row, which Joe and I have, and certainly I have always said that it really should be like it used to be, which was 5 days in a row. To me, actually, even to me, getting to 90 is sort of a yawn. Now, if you string 3 or 4 days where it's between 95 and 100, now that will impress me. But if it's going to be days where it's like 90, 89, 91, it's okay. Well, yeah, it's not something that's not something that excites me.
Well, like I said, 17 years ago at LaGuardia, and of course LaGuardia with all of the construction, especially early on in the century, they strung together 3 consecutive 100-degree days. I don't think Central Park did that, but LaGuardia did, and that to me is extreme heat.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too often. All right, let's go back to the Storm Prediction Center. Because they love it when we say the Storm Prediction Center here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So there you go. There's their forecast now. This is for tomorrow, Tuesday into Wednesday, eastern Minnesota, northwestern Wisconsin, marginal risk extending into the UP of Michigan and down into northern Iowa. Is there tornado risk with this? Let's see. Yep, 2% tornado risk in that zone. And on day 3, we see a marginal risk from the lower lakes down to western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northeastern Arkansas, southeastern Missouri. Most of the general thunderstorms are not in the forecast for Wednesday into Thursday for the coast. However, for the East Coast, the immediate East Coast, but just inland, there is a area of general thunderstorms that covers the interior part of the East, all the way down to the Gulf states, and then all the way back up into the Great Lakes. And WPC, the weather prediction folks, also huge watchers of this show, you'll see basically 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from North Carolina up to Maine, 1.5 inches plus for areas in northeastern Pennsylvania, northwest New Jersey, the Catskills, and maybe of just kind of nosing up into the Catskills there. Nothing really too extreme here in terms of rainfalls over the next 7 days east of the Rockies. Just sort of looks like the typical early September scattered stuff. And actually, Joe, September's one of those months where the summer thunderstorm activity really starts to ratchet down in terms of the day-to-day stuff, and you start looking more for thunderstorms that are going to be triggered off by weather systems that are setting up or stalling cold fronts or, that sort of thing. So right now, I mean, this is really no big deal as far as rainfall goes in the next 7 days because there's no tropical storms or hurricanes threatening from now through at least next Monday night.
Yeah, and it's another thing that we need to be not too much concerned with in the coming weeks is the potential for severe weather in the Northeast. I mean, yeah, there'll still be thunderstorms around, but as we wind on down and get deeper into September and October, and especially November, we're going way, way out ahead. The threat or chances for thunderstorms with hail and damaging winds or whatever is something else. I mean, summertime, yeah, but now things are going to be diminishing, as you just alluded to.
All right, so let's do a little bit of upper air analysis going forward, and I've got the Atlantic. Actually, we really should look at the North America view because it is important to take a look at what's going to be going on in the West in the coming next 2 weeks, and I want to take a look also at the NAO, Joe. We haven't really talked too much about the North Atlantic Oscillation or the NAO. Higher than normal pressures up in the North Atlantic. Winter weather lovers all know this all too well. They love it. They love to see it negative. And of course, I'm always there to point out that may not always necessarily be a good thing for snow lovers. But it has been actually, if you go back to June 1st, right through almost the end of August, it's been either neutral or negative through that whole stretch of time. Now, we've seen a brief pop-up to a positive North Atlantic oscillation for the last couple of days, but if you look at the trend over the next week, next 10 days till we get to the middle of the month, the NAO is trending back to neutral and going negative. So it seems to me that we're seeing, this NAO, as I said, going back to the beginning of June where it first went negative, it seems like that's where it wants to be and stay there for a while. So that's going to be an important development as we move through the month. And the other thing I want to point out is the other thing that we look at, which is the Pacific North America index, or the PNA, and when it's positive, it means that there's a ridge. Usually that means there's ridging in the west and troughing in the east. And all through the summer, I mean, we kind of went back and forth a little bit from negative to positive. Looks like half the time we were negative, half the time we were positive, and we've been negative since let's say the 20th of August, but now we're going into a positive phase here. Which is kind of interesting. Almost all the members want to go positive with the Pacific North America Index. So that's saying that a troughing is going to be coming into the eastern part of the United States, and I think that's something we have to pay attention to if we're going to have a tropical system moving across the tropical Atlantic, which we are going to have. So this could be, this might be some clues, give us at least some clues as to where we might be going with the upper air pattern as we move into next week.
Well, yes, and in fact, all through the summertime, we've been looking at the models, the global models, and the GFS especially has been, saying, or indicating in the tropics that there'd be some kind of development taking place, while the other models, such as the Canadian model and the European model, say, I don't think so. But this system that we're looking at, the one that Joe's pointing to with the red X in the central Atlantic, 90% probability of development over the course of the next 48 hours.
And
All three,
100% in the next 7 days.
yeah, well, there you go. That's why I'm saying that, who knows? Maybe tomorrow this will be tropical cyclone Lee, but not just the GFS, but the European and also the Canadian. All three are strongly waving red flags that this is going to be something to watch within the next 10 days. Well, 10 days from now, as it begins to turn to the northwest, past, let's say, Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, and begins to turn up toward, let's say, the Bahamas, and possibly coming close to the east coast of the United States. So that's something that this weekend, no problem, nothing to worry about. But the following weekend, or maybe the end or the middle part of this upcoming this coming forecast cycle, the mid September, 14, 15, 16. That's when we have to start watching this prospective tropical cyclone Lee, because it looks like it could be one that, well, again, depending upon the configuration of the trough, configuration of the upper air, could play a role in the weather somewhere along the Atlantic seaboard by mid-month.
Joe, we have Ann Garvey on the chat board, and she says, "Hi, I'm tired of the spraying in the skies." Well, and I would say that you could counteract that with a can of Aquanet. Just spray your hair, and maybe that could reverse the spraying. God knows if you use enough of it, you could use it as a weapon. We've got. I got the Hurricane Center's the 8 o'clock from the tropical weather outlook, and yes, they're up to 90 and 100. This is going to be a depression probably tomorrow, and also Gert is gone. Katia is post-tropical cyclone Katia, so so that's done. Unless you care about something that's at 28 north and 34 west, which is about halfway between the Canary Islands and the Azores. And the post-tropical cyclone Franklin is several hundred miles north of the Azores, and it's supposed to go southeast, closer to Portugal. The Hurricane Center actually mentions that because of the warmer waters there, they might even get some subtropical or tropical characteristics back late this week. And we've seen in the last number of years a few storms have actually gone in to Portugal. And into Spain. So it was almost unheard of, and then all of a sudden they started going there. I don't quite understand that why. And there's another wave. There's an X there that is right on the coast, coming off the African coast. And on the 7-day forecast, the Hurricane Center has a 60% chance, although this one looks like it's going to take a turn to the right fairly quickly. So it's really the lead one that we're going to be focusing our attention on. And everything, at least in terms of the upper air, and I've got the European up. We've got Idalia's upper low is what you see southeast of Nova Scotia, and that creates a trough down into the in the Atlantic south of Bermuda. But there is ridging. There's a big high, and I moved it to Thursday here, so you can see. Let me get the screen here. So there's a high that's building out in the Atlantic, the subtropical high, and the system that will probably be Tropical Storm Lee is tucked in underneath it, and it's pushing to the west or west northwest as that ridge kind of holds. And actually, the high actually tries to build back westward. Now, what's interesting, Joe, is if you look at the European on Friday of this week, there is a trough on the European that if Lee were off the southeast coast with this trough, we would be having a whole different conversation up and down the East Coast. But my point is, in terms of timing, when you got these storms that are moving through the tropics and the subtropics, and if they're heading toward the East Coast of the United States in one form or another, it has to time out almost perfectly with what's going on across North America for these storms to be a threat along the East Coast. And that's a very, very difficult thing to accomplish, atmospherically speaking.
Correct.
And this is an instance here where, okay, you got the trough and you've got this southerly flow along the East Coast, but you know what? Your tropical storm is still, 700 or 800 miles away. So there's no concern there. So when we move forward, that trough just kind of minors out, and then there's another trough that strengthens in southeastern Canada. You see it there, extending down all the way into Mississippi and Georgia, and this thing on the European anyway gets caught by that trough and turns, and of course it looks like it's aiming. Actually, it looks like from the European standpoint, it would pass just east of Bermuda. But my point is that the Europeans got, its upper air setup would suggest that this will turn like Franklin turned, and they seem to all want to move to the northeast this year off the southeast coast rather than moving to the northwest or west. Now, where the difference lies in the European and in the GFS and the Canadian models, which are doing a whole different setup with this troughing here that develops. Instead of strengthening the upper trough in southeastern Canada, it digs it down into the Ohio Valley. This is for next Tuesday night, and you see there's a wrapped up cutoff low in Illinois and Indiana, and then to the east of that you see what is Lee in this wrapped up system that's moving northwestward, and of course the upper trough doesn't lift out; it actually just stays there. And on this particular run, Joe, it took it to Cape Cod and a landfalling hurricane somewhere in eastern New England. Now, this is a long way off. I mean, we're talking about the end of next week. But I will just say this. I think the upper air patterns that are being showed by the GFS and also by the Canadian kind of go against the grain of how these troughs have performed and how they have evolved in the eastern part of the United States this summer. The European, to me, has a look that is much more consistent with what we've seen in the last 2 months as opposed to what the other models are showing. So for now, I'm kind of in a prove it to me mode with regards to the GFS and the Canadian, which want to show a bigger threat to the East Coast later next week, versus the European, which I think is probably got the more sensible idea of a recurring hurricane off the southeast coast of the United States.
Well, yeah, all three models, I think, are on the same page in terms of the fact that, yes, there is going to be a tropical cyclone. And yes, this looks like it's going to be a fairly robust one. I mean, just take a guess here. I would say that all three models are kind of flagging possibly a Cat 2 or Cat 3 storm at the very least. But again, the discrepancies will be in the upper air pattern, whereas the GFS and the Canadian model are in the same camp, and the European is, I won't say the outlier, but it's the model that may, as you said, Joe, have a more sensible concept as to where this ultimately or eventually will go. So we'll see. But it certainly will be of some interest to see a storm of that magnitude. Well, we just had one like that with
Right.
Franklin, and we're going to see probably another one, possibly with Lee. It's just that again, the upper air does not seem to want to favor, thankfully, any chance of this storm making landfall anywhere along the Atlantic seaboard. But there still is a long, long ways to go, and we'll see how this all pans out in the days to come.
Well, this is something you don't see too often. And I brought up the model intensity guidance for Invest 95L, which is the system that's out in the Atlantic. All but one of the intensity models have it as a Cat 3 or a 4. Okay, the only one that doesn't has what looks like a high-grade Cat 2. So here we are with a system that hasn't even developed, and you've got 8 or 9 intensity models telling you at least it's going to be a Cat 3, and 1, 2, 3, looks like 5, 6 of them, 7 of them get it to a Cat 4. I think this is a pretty good bet that it's going to get there.
Yeah. So there's no. So it's funny. We often talk about, in terms of tropical cyclones, we say the most difficult part is the intensity. It's the track that normally is the one that is easier to forecast or predict. But it's so far, and again, we're 8 or 10 days out.
Right.
At this moment in time, the intensity seems on target for a significant storm. It's just again the question about the track is going to be a little up in the air depending upon which model you believe.
The spaghetti plots, by the way, actually, this is also kind of unusual. You don't see this too often, but I mean, they're all pretty well clustered together all the way out to day 6 and 7. I mean, they start to spread a little bit around day 7, but normally you could get these things. There'll be a 300-mile or more spread between one model and the furthest south and the furthest north. I mean, these are all pretty tightly clustered together, taking a track north of the Leeward Islands, north of the Puerto Rico. And most of them winded up somewhere inside of 25 north and 65 degrees west. That's as far out as it goes, and that would be a week from now. So, obviously, long way to go with this, and a lot of. I'm sure there are going to be a couple of runs where people are going to get look at it and say, "Uh-oh," but I would just be really cautious here in terms of where we're going, because a lot, again, I kind of favor the idea that the pattern is going to repeat itself in the way that it's been repeating all summer, and that is where the troughs are in the east, but they've been generally either right along the immediate coast or off the east coast as opposed to being further to the west. By the way, we got a bunch of super chat hits, Joe, and I kind of missed the Leon Probitsky hits tip jar. I got that one. Thanks, Leon. Most appreciated. Can you see who's doing what?
Well, on my list we have Leon. We also have Howard A. We also have Paul Roman, and Izzy D apparently has hit the tip jar twice. I know at the very beginning he was there, and he hit the jar again a few minutes ago.
Wonderful. Okay. And by the way, we have 82 likes so far, which is nice. And Joe and I just love when people like us. We're very needy weather people. So if you can get us over 100 likes, we won't nag you about it anymore. At least not tonight. Okay. So let's look at the GFS. This is the 18Z run. It doesn't really matter what run we use, but here we go for Tuesday, and of course the heat continues. You've got a nice looking low there in Wisconsin with the trailing cold front. If you look on the right, you can see Idalia with the post-tropical cyclone Idalia southeast of Nova Scotia. Never quite makes it to land. Some of the rain backs in, and then it just sort of falls apart. By the time we get to Thursday, we do have a front that's approaching with some showers and thunderstorms. And because of the fact that the GFS hangs the front up from the Great Lakes southward into the Ohio Valley, it would suggest that we would have showers and thunderstorms Friday and probably on Saturday and probably on Sunday. Now, I'm not ready to accept that. And, of course, if you see what happens here in the long range as we go into next week, there's your Cat 4 off the Florida coast, moving north-northwestward, passing west of Bermuda, and then it kind of shoots northward pretty rapidly, right along or just east of 70 degrees west, and then heads up into eastern Maine and into Nova Scotia. Is it possible? Yes. Do I believe it? Not at this point.
That's the intermediate anyway. So,
well, even if you want to look at the 12, we could look at the 12. The 12 was really not that much different.
But again, you pointed out the configuration of the trough was different from what the European was indicating, and the same holds true with the Canadian, different from the European. So
yeah, the 12 and the 18 actually today are remarkably similar. It's the same idea. The trough to the west of the Ohio Valley, the hurricane riding up along 70, and then it starts to kind of edge east of 70. It passes a little further east of Cape Cod than the 18Z run, and then goes slamming up into Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. I mean, again, if the European doesn't go far enough out, because it only takes it to day 10, if you go to day 10 on the European, it is right on the low. It seems like every time in the last 5 days, last 4 or 5 days, when I've looked at the European, either the 0Z run or the 12Z run, it's always on the storm seems to be in the same place on day 10. And by the way, on at the 174 mark, The Europeans got a 926 pressure just east of with a hurricane east of the Bahamas. So that would be almost a Cat 5 if that were the case. I mean, not that far off. And, it gets it down to a 924, but it's already moving on the European because of the whole structure of the upper air being so different. It's already moving northeastward and passes, on day 10, it looks like it's going to pass east of Bermuda. So, again, the upper air on the European is different, and I think it's, and again, in my view, I think right now it's the one that I believe makes the most sense going forward.
Now, did you say 924 millibar?
924.
924?
Yeah.
924 millibar for the uninitiated. That would be the equivalent. You wouldn't even be able to find it on your aneroid barometer on the wall of your office or your home right now because it goes way below that. 924 millibar is the equivalent of 27.285 inches of mercury. That's way down there.
That is. That is. In fact, because where I am up at 2,200 feet, that's what my barometer always says. It's always in the high 27s, low 28s.
Yes.
It's not adjusted for sea level.
Isn't that annoying to you?
What? That it's sitting in the 27s all the time?
Yeah.
No.
Well, of course, but if you said it, as you said, if you adjust it for sea level pressure, then it wouldn't bother you. But
no. Ken Musillo hits the tip jar. He also hits super thanks, which you can do if you're not watching the show live. Just putting it out there.
Also, okay. Maggie P. also hit the tip jar as well before Ken Musillo did.
Excellent. All right. So let's see if we can do a little Briller Jeopardy tonight, shall we?
Surely. Is it your turn?
Let me see if I have it or if you have it. Hold on. What do I have? Yes, I have something here. Let me see if it's the one. And
by the way, you want to.
Oh, we did this one. So this was the last one. The number of clear days in the month of August with less than 30 days. We did Honolulu, Las Vegas, New York City, Phoenix, and Seattle. So I don't have a new one. Do you have a new one?
I may, if I'm going to check. And for those of you who are wondering where Mrs. Rayo is, this is interesting. Joe, let me just first find Briller Jeopardy here and see if I have it. I think I do. Not Briller. And when was this sent? Wednesday, 8:42. So we may already have done. No, we didn't do this. This is on this edition of Briller Jeopardy. We're going to talk about wildfires for the year 2022.
Oh, God. Well, have at it.
Well, this is a one-shot question.
And we're not talking about garbage cans that are lit up in the middle of urban areas here. We're talking about, wildfires. Okay.
What 10 states have produced the most wildfires based upon the number of acres burned?
All right. So based on the number of acres burned, will the chat board join in here in answering that question? So Keith James II starts off with the one I would have started off with, and is California.
Okay, that's there.
Tim, a.k.a. Latex Dreams, Maine, he says.
That is not there.
Okay. Bobby Livingsworth says Alberta, but we're talking about the United States, right?
Right.
Okay, so that doesn't count. Rich Rothmansky says Oregon.
And that is there, yes.
Okay.
I saw that Dennis Cassia mentioned, what did Dennis say? Dennis said Colorado. Unfortunately, Dennis, not there.
But Chris O'Shaughnessy says Idaho.
Idaho is there.
Carol DiChiara says New York. And so did somebody else.
New York is not there. Sorry.
And what about Jason Schaefer and Chris Alley both saying New Jersey?
New Jersey's not there either.
And Lou Alessi says Washington State.
Washington State is there.
Yeah, this is a big West Coast thing. This is a big Western U.S. thing with these wildfires. Trying to see others with choices. So how many do we have so far?
4. 4 out of 10.
All right. Well, here's somebody that Leon Probitsky puts out: Montana, California, North Dakota, Oregon, Washington.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, Montana, yes.
North Dakota?
North Dakota, no.
No. Okay. But we already have Oregon. We already have Washington. We already have California.
Right.
What about Nevada?
I would have put Nevada, but it's not on Scott's list.
What about Alaska, as Dennis Cassia says?
Dennis Cassia is on target. Yes, Alaska is on the list. So now we have 6 out of the 10.
Rain X12, which is great for the windshield, by the way, your car windshield. Texas.
Texas, yes. Texas is on the list.
Okay. Did we say Montana?
Yes, we did.
Did we say Utah?
Did we say Utah? No, but it doesn't matter because it's not on the list.
Okay, well that's good. Steve Lapointe says Nebraska.
Nebraska?
Yes.
I would say that's a good choice, but it's not on the list.
Not on the list. Chuck Cardillo says Alaska and Hawaii.
No, Hawaii is not, especially after what we've just
right.
seen.
I mean, Hawaii doesn't exactly have a lot of acres to burn to begin with.
Right.
Okay. Izzy D says New Mexico.
New Mexico on the list, yes. Izzy?
How many left?
We have, there's only 2 left.
He also says Florida, and I remember not, when was, I don't even, it's got to go back a ways, but there was one year where the whole state was burning up.
Well, Florida is a good choice because it's on the list. It's number 9.
So how many do we have left?
Only 1.
Only 1. All right. Well, we have Florida. Oh boy. And we went through Montana, we went through Idaho, Washington, we got the West, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico. How about Kansas?
Nope.
No? Oklahoma?
No. Oklahoma is, well, anyway, yes.
Oklahoma, so that was the last one.
Right, so it's so the list again: Alaska, California, New Mexico, Texas, Oregon, Idaho, Oklahoma, Washington, Florida, and Montana.
All right. The chairman, Scott Briller, hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Scott. And he says that Mother Briller was able to attend her granddaughter's wedding on Saturday and even dance a little. That's awesome to hear. Excellent news.
Great.
So thank you. Thank you for letting us know, and thank you for hitting the tip jar. And it's wonderful that she got to go to the wedding and have a good time. That is terrific. So anyway, any last parting thoughts here as we wrap it up for this Monday night?
Those of you who are wondering, first of all, 113 likes today. Thank you so much to everybody. Even though it's officially a holiday, we had a lot of people watching tonight, and we got over the 100 like category. And look at all these people who hit the tip jar tonight. Izzy D did it twice. Leon Probitsky, Howard A., Paul Roman, Maggie P., Ken Musillo, and the chairman, Scott Briller. And for those of you wondering where Mrs. Rayo was tonight, all through the weekend on Saturday, when we go into the cupboard, there's a container which has tea bags in it.
Okay.
And I always have tea in the morning, and sometimes I'll have tea in the evening as well. And I pointed out to Renata, I said, well, I'm down to 1 tea bag. So she actually was able to scrounge up another bag somewhere. So I did have tea this morning, but she said, well, I'm going out to ShopRite today, and I'll get tea for you. And, I mentioned it more than once today. I said, don't forget the tea.
All right.
Do you have tea on your list? Don't forget the tea. And, she goes to ShopRite. She's there for like 2 hours. She comes back, and as she's taking all the bags out and taking up, she got coffee and everything else, she said, up.
I forgot the tea. Well,
I forgot.
Was it?
Now, this shows you the kind of wife I have. At 7:15, she's heading out the door. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go to Acme. I said, what are you going for Acme for? He said, I'm going to get you your tea.
Oh.
I'm telling the story because I said you didn't have to go all the way to Acme for a lousy box of tea.
Actually, I went to Walmart.
She also went to Walmart
Oh,
too.
all right. Well, that's good. Did she get those tiny little tea leaves in Tetley tea?
No, I got Lipton.
Oh, with the Lipton flow through tea bag.
Yes.
I've actually come to a very cosmic understanding of a Lipton flow through tea bag.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Or on wacky packages, you don't want to get this
Lip
tea.
torn. It was lip torn.
All right.
All right. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. And enjoying the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned at the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you do decide to make a purchase on the Tempest website for this or anything else that they have, and they've got lots of fun weather stuff, and the latest in smart weather fashion. Anyway, they use the referral link on the chat board and the coupon code I want a weather station, and you get
10% off.
right. And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Your go-to place for mulch, topsoil, sand, salt this winter, and any hardware that you need when it comes to making sure your home is safe if we get a tropical storm or hurricane. 631-756-1125 for the best prices anywhere. The website is
omnitruevalue.com. And Joe, give me sharing capability for just a moment.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hold on a second. All right, what are you up to? Okay, it's all yours.
I got it?
Oh,
right.
Oh, you got it all right.
I got it. There you go. Actually, it wasn't the tea. It was.
You know what? Hold on a second, because it's having the same problem here. Let me see if I can fix it on my end. Try it. Hold on. The world we live in. So let's go there. Let's go to that. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try again.
Right.
Unshare and share again, will you?
All right, here we go.
All right, that worked. There you go.
How's that?
Yeah. Molten lava soup. Oh, it doesn't want to stay on the screen.
What do you mean?
No, you had it there, and then it popped up, and then within like a second or 2 seconds up, it went unshare and share again. Let's try this one more time. Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. I don't know why it does this. Okay, now it's there. Hopefully you won't disappear. There you go. Lipton, lip torn. If you drink this hot soup, you'll get your lip torn. Molten lava soup. 8 deadly servings?
Yes.
Oh, whoever drew those cartoons was a genius.
Anyway, this is back in the day. I think this is back in the late 60s, early 70s or whatever.
Right.
Shows you how old we were.
Wacky packages, yes.
Packages.
We were wacky, weren't we?
By the way,
all right, come back to full screen before we get into trouble.
Series 1, according to that, if you want the Series 1 wacky packages, it'll only cost you $24.95. Of course, this is something that back in the day, in the late 60s, early 70s, you'd go to your local candy store and you can get 5 of them for like a nickel or 10 cents. And now they're charging like $24 for not one, but a series.
Yeah.
Of which Series 1.
Yeah, and you used to get the big wad of gum that really tasted good until all the sugar was gone.
Right. With powdered sugar on it, right?
Yeah, it had a little bit of powdery sugar on it, as I remember. All right.
Well,
shall we say goodnight, Joe?
I think so. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:35.
7:35 p.m. Eastern Time, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Nighty-night.
Nighty-night.